Okay, something slightly different tonight. Bit more yoke training tonight. I actually had a full workout this morning. I did a push workout this morning, but I just fancied doing a bit more work tonight. So tonight I'm doing a bit of a yoke session. Now, I'm starting on neck. Now, I don't often start on neck, but you guys have heard me mention a great trainer called Paul Leonard, and I was watching one of his old Instagram reels relatively recently, and he talked about starting with neck as a way of kind of just waking your body up, and also it's great if you want to just prioritize something. Now, neck is a priority for me. I like to have a strong neck, I like to have a thick neck. I like the aesthetics of having a thick neck, but also I've said to you guys before, just being strong and having a strong neck just prepares you for life. It just bulletproofs you for life. So I'm going to carry on. Now, I'm starting with neck dead stops. Now, these are, for me, probably the most difficult neck exercise I personally find. They're for the back of your neck. I train my neck in all directions, but I'm starting out with these as my kind of heavy neck movements. I use neck harness all the time, and I'm reasonably strong in it, and this is by far the most difficult form of neck training I personally find. Now, I'm just using 30 kilos. I did a set with a plate to start with, so I'm using a plate and a 10 kilo plate on top. And I'm going to get like 3 sets of 10. The most I've ever done on this is 2 plates. And as I said, it is challenging. When I'm standing kind of upright using a neck harness, I can use a 50 kilo dumbbell, but in this particular movement where you're a bit more bent over and it is just the neck and the neck alone, I find for me 30 kilos is about right. Now, if you're trying to set this up, I'm just using a roller pad and I'm just hooking it into my frame. Now, an alternative way of doing it is literally putting a barbell in some J-hooks and kind of leaning over it as well. I've done it like that. It's not quite as comfortable. And then, throw a bit of padding on there or a towel or something on there. Gets the job done. But as I said, it's not quite as comfortable on the forearms. And I don't really want to be distracted by the pain of the bar digging into my forearms. So I find a roller works quite well for me. I then get my neck harness, I'll show you. And I just feed it through. As I said, it's a bit makeshift, but it works pretty well. Okay, so that's enough of that. Now, when you're training neck, for those of you who've seen in my previous neck video, be very, very, very careful. Now, to be honest with you, I don't tend to normally do 10 rep range. I've fancied it tonight. But the very lowest I ordinarily go is 15 to 20 rep range. My normal working sets are 20 to 30, if I'm perfectly honest. With these dead stops, when I do them, I do tend to do 10 rep range because they are just very tiring. But anyway, I'm going to move on and I'm going to train my neck in all directions now. So I'm going to do the side of my neck next. Now, as a home gym owner, you have to be pretty inventive. So I'm going to use my roller. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to show you. Okay, so what I'm doing here is going to train the side of my neck. Now, actually looking at that, it needs to be a tiny bit higher. So I'm just basically applying pressure into this. Now, on the side, I've got a 20 kilo plate. You may or may not be able to see, but I've got a band as well, attached to a band peg at the bottom. And I find this is very, very effective for the side of the neck, because training the side of the neck can be a little bit awkward. Because ordinarily, if I'm not using this setup, I just lie on a bench, have a plate on the side of my head, and just effectively go like that. Now, that's okay when you're using slightly smaller plates, you know, like 5 kilo plates, 10 kilo plates. But I've got a reasonably strong neck, so I do find having a 20 kilo plate on the side of my head pretty uncomfortable, but my neck is still strong enough to do it. So I find this is quite a good alternative. So anyway, I'm going to get going. 20 reps on each side. In fact, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to get the back of my neck a little bit more. So I'm going to spin round and get the back of my neck. Might as well get a bit more work in. Now obviously the other side of my neck. And now I'm going to do the front. Now, it's not quite as effective on the front, I think just due to the roller. So if I'm trying to train the front of my neck, ordinarily I just get a plate and do plate raises. But while I'm here, might as well. Okay, well, I'm going to perform 3 circuits of that. I'm not adding any extra weight, so I'm not going to film all 3 sets. But you get the general idea. So as I said, ordinarily I tend to do 3 rounds. I don't go crazy volume with neck. 3 movements in each, 3 sets in each direction, is more than enough for most people. Alternatively, if you are someone that trains your neck multiple times a week, and to be fair, I do, I tend to train my neck about 3 times a week. What you can potentially do if you want to, particularly if you're new to it, is just focus on a different area of the neck in each session. So you might want to do the back of the neck in one session with a little bit of like plate raise. Then you might want to do the sides of your neck in another session. And just simply rotate them. So maybe focus on the front one session, the back another session, and the sides on another session. It's all neck, So as I said, neck is something that is a priority for me because I like the aesthetics of it, and I like to try and stay relatively injury free. Okay, I've moved on to my next exercise, which is shrugs, but this time I'm doing rear shrugs. Now, when we think of traps, we always think of, this big muscle that you can probably see that connects into your neck. And ordinarily, we kind of target them with, shrugs and rows and things like that. Now, what we often forget, or a lot of people often forget, I find, is that your trapezius actually is like a fan, and it goes about 1/3 of the way down your back, maybe halfway down, thereabouts. So it's really great not to just kind of hit it up here, but to hit the lower part of your traps as well, and it kind of gives you that upper back thickness. Now, I find that rear shrugs target the lower part of the trap a little bit more, for me personally. So I rotate my exercises. I tend to rotate between dumbbell shrugs, front shrugs, and rear shrugs. And today, as I said, I've rotated in some rear shrugs. But again, as I said, I just find it kind of hits the lower part of the traps just a little bit more. It hits the traps everywhere. Like we say with bench press. Bench press will primarily hit the kind of middle and lower part of your chest, but it's going to hit a bit of upper pec as well, and vice versa. If you're doing incline bench, it's going to hit a bit of the middle pec as well. But it just, for me, just shifts the emphasis slightly, so it kind of targets the lower traps a little bit more. Right, I just hit 6 plates, what's that, 260. I'm going to stay with 260. Sometimes I go up to 300, sometimes I go a little higher than 300, but 260 feels pretty good tonight. Now, I'm doing it outside of my frame, just so you guys can see it. If I was in my frame and just picking it up off my pins, then I would feel a bit safer doing 300 kilos, but kind of having to walk it out and then step back with it, I don't really fancy doing much more weight than the 260. So I didn't show you my warm-up sets. I think I only started filming at 5 plates, but I started on 2 plates. I did 2 plates for 10, 3 plates for 10, 4 plates for 10, and then I started filming at 5 plates, because my videos sometimes do have a habit of being pretty long, so I just thought I'd cut to the main event. So I'm going to hit one more set with the 260. Okay, moving on. Next exercise. Now, I don't honestly know what they're called. Let's name them now. Incline snatch grip raises. There you go, incline snatch grip raises. Now, it sort of mimics a snatch, like a muscle snatch, whereby you take a pretty wide grip on a bar and you just raise it over your head. Now, a lot of the time when we are training and we are doing things like side raises, front raises, and those types of things, a lot of the time we're often told not to go above the shoulder. Now, take it or leave it, but if I want to activate the whole of the kind of yoke area, my traps, my front delts, my side delts, my rear delts, I find actually going all the way up really activates absolutely everything. Now, I set my bench up at around 45 degrees, which you guys can see there. And then I set up my pins at the bottom, which you guys can hopefully see down there. And sorry, I've got my camera on reverse, so I can't tell if you can see it or not. And I effectively raise the bar all the way over my head. This is also a really good exercise for shoulder mobility. Now, if you're a bigger guy, like I suppose I'd be considered a bigger guy. I'm a bit over 130 kilos, 130 something or other kilos. A lot of the time you find that you can get a little bit stiff in the shoulders, a little bit muscle bound, whatever you want to call it, and we do lose a bit of mobility. So this is a great exercise to kind of help with shoulder mobility. I'm quite lucky, or I suppose lucky I've trained it, but I'm reasonably mobile for a bigger person because I've deliberately trained my mobility. And I train through quite a full range of motion in most exercises, and I have done for years. So I'm still able to do things like behind the neck pull downs, behind the neck presses, and stuff like that. But if you are someone that maybe struggles with mobility, this might be an exercise that's worth throwing in. Now, if you're trying to set this up, if you haven't got a home gym set up, don't worry about it. You can very easily replicate this in a commercial gym. So if you go into a cable crossover, set an incline bench up in front of the cables, get a bar, ideally a wide bar, maybe like a lat pull down bar or something like that, and attach it to the bottom, and then basically just do a raise. So I have done these in commercial gyms. I've done them on an incline bench. I've also mimicked them by just lying down on the ground as well, when there have been occasions when I haven't even had access to a bench. So you can do them. But again, just another way of kind of activating those traps, the yoke. And our bodies work synergistically. Can't even say the word. Together. What's that word? In synergy. Synergistically, is that the word? There you go, whatever. In tandem, together. Our body parts. So the way social media is going at the moment, a lot of us are seeing science-based lifters kind of being shoved down our throats. And then you've got like these extreme science-based lifters who don't want to use any of the muscles, and they truly want to just isolate the brachialis and the brachialis alone, and they like tie themselves down and cuff themselves to things. I'm not a big fan of that. I like using lots of muscles at the same time. It's worked pretty well for me, and it's got me pretty good results. I'm reasonably old. I'm still in pretty good shape. I've been doing it a long time, and I'm still got a decent enough level of strength. And I find doing your kind of compound exercises, getting things moving together through a decent range of motion, is pretty good. So, I think it's good to follow things on social media, like a lot of you guys are watching me now, rambling on. But sometimes we have to kind of take it or leave it. Try it out. If it works for you, cool. If it doesn't work for you, also cool. Like some of the stuff you see on my channel, you might think, oh wow, that's great. But alternatively, it might work well for me, but it might not work quite so well for you. We've all got different dimensions and strength levels and what have you. So, but anyway, I'm going to hit 2 more sets of this. So I tend to do these in a slightly higher rep range, 15 reps, 20 reps. Now, if you are setting these up at home and you've got a home gym setup, you can obviously add resistance by just simply adding more bands. Alternatively, if you've only got a limited amount of bands, then you can just move the bench in and out. So the further the bench is away from the resistance band and the further the band has to stretch, the more challenging it becomes. I experimented with where I had my bench, so my band is stretching pretty far. Now these, I've got a pair of black bands on there. I don't honestly know what the resistance profile on them is anymore. I think when I first got them, they were something like 20 kilos each or thereabouts, but I've had them a while, so these things stretch. And I don't really care. I'm just trying to get some stimulus at the moment. Now, you'll often see bodybuilders talk about the muscles don't understand numbers. And to a degree, that is very true. At the moment, I couldn't tell you what numbers there are, but I know I'm finding getting 15 reps is pretty challenging. So when you choose your weight, you want to choose something that you're not necessarily reaching failure at for 15 reps. Like if I really went for this, I'm sure I could get 20. But I find it should be starting to get a bit more challenging by the time you get to the end. Okay, that's the end of the workout then. So pretty successful. Starting with neck was a good idea. So thank you, Paul Leonard. It was a very, very, very good idea. If you guys, he's got a YouTube channel. He doesn't upload all that often, but he's started uploading YouTube shorts quite recently. And again, he's just a lifting enthusiast. He's been training for a very, very long time, coaches some very high level athletes. I think he's retired from competitive lifting now, but at one time he was like a national level powerlifter in America as well. So very, very, very knowledgeable guy and very well respected by those people in the know. So very cool guy. And you've heard me plug his book in the past as well. So yeah, starting out with neck was a really nice way of waking my body up a little bit, and then moving on to some rear shrugs. Again, trying to hit the traps, but the lower part of the trap, so it adds to that kind of upper back thickness, as well as kind of where it joins into your neck as well. And then finishing off with some incline wide grip raises, snatch grip raises, whatever you want to call them. So hopefully it's giving you guys a little bit of food for thought. Now the yoke, I think, is always a very impressive muscle, because when you look at someone, you won't necessarily be able to see whether they've got a six pack or what have you, but we're often very much drawn to the neck, the traps, the general shoulder width and areas like that. And the yoke just exudes power for me. If you see someone with quite a thick neck or developed traps, ordinarily they don't need to be wearing a vest or anything like that. You can just see them in normal clothes and you're like, oh, you know, subconsciously, I'm not saying you might say it out loud, that might be a bit weird, but subconsciously you might think, oh, that guy looks pretty strong or whatever. So it's important to be strong, but it's nice to look strong as well. And as I said, aesthetically, I'm a huge fan of the yoke. I've said to you guys before, I was a huge wrestling fan growing up, and I still watch wrestling now. I am a big kid. And, you know, guys from way, way, way back in the day, like the Warlord, if you remember the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, they had massive developed traps. Moving into the 90s and the later 90s and the 2000s, probably the most impressive pair were Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, who I think he had something like a 22-inch neck, which is just insane. Like prime Goldberg was insane. So if you ever get a chance, have a look at him, what he used to look like. He still looks very impressive now, well into his 50s. But as a younger man in his 30s, oh my goodness, his neck and traps. And of course, you can't talk about neck and traps without talking about Brock Lesnar. You've also got people like prime Mike Tyson, who used to do those insane neck bridges and what have you. And I think he had a 20-inch neck, but it was like on a 5'9", 5'10" frame, which is crazy. Goldberg and Brock Lesnar are obviously, I don't know, 6'3", 6'4", thereabouts. They're probably my height or taller. And they are, very, very, very big, very heavy guys, 300-pound guys. Whereas Mike was pound for pound very big, but he was probably, I think prime Mike Tyson he used to fight at around 220, thereabouts, 215, 220, and he was in the region of 5'9". So his neck, to have that neck on a 5'9" body is just insane, absolutely insane. Anyway, there I am fanboying again over men with thick necks, kind of strange. Right. On that note, I'm going to go. So I'm going to go and eat some food. My wife is cooking something nice, I think. Pasta and some kind of corn. And I'm going to wash it down with some super milk. Get my protein in. All right, you guys take care. Speak to you soon.